Hello, I am Red Mage, and welcome to a Magic the Gathering video featuring the color red. In today's video, Rakdos Ramp in Lost Caverns of Ixalan Standard. This deck is a ton of fun, and it does huge, flashy, value-y things. It also wins games in Mythic. What we're ramping to, primarily, the dinosaur duo, Trumpeting Carnosaur and Etali Primal Conqueror. We also have one Chandra Hope's Beacon, two Breach the Multiverse, and two Virtue of Persistence, which pair with our other removal to help us survive to the late game as well. We have 4 big score, and one each of the Celestus and the Irencrag for ramp. And we have 3 Brotherhood's End and 3 Burn Down the House to help us survive to cast those big things. As well as 1 Duress and 3 Cavern of Souls to try and make sure we can actually execute our game plan against counterspell decks. This is sort of a best of one-ified version of the different best of 3 Rakdos Ramp decks that have had recent success in tournaments on Magic Online. I'm playing only 4 total copies of Demolition Field and Field of Ruin instead of 6 that I've seen often in other decks because I want to make sure, well, for one, I want to have room for Cavern of Souls. 3 copies instead of just 1 or 2 to make sure that we can be decent against control decks since we only have room for 1 Duress. But I also want to make sure we can cast Brotherhood's End on turn 3 as often as possible. We already have trouble with that given how many colorless lands are in the mana base. Molten Collapse, another example of this. It's serviceable against aggro decks. A 2-mana generic removal spell is just fine. Sorcery speed makes it a little bit of a liability in some instances, but we want to be able to destroy planeswalkers so we don't have too many dead cards against blue-white control. Rounding out the deck is 1 Sheoldred, which again is sort of a best of one-ified thing. You'd normally see it in the sideboard, but I wanted to play it to get some more life gain in the deck. It also just bridges the gap to the late game in a way that a lot of cards cannot. And 1 Cruelty of Gix. Most versions of this deck are playing 3. This can be a little mopey against aggro, so I didn't want to overload on it too much. The top end of this deck provides so much value that specifically affects the battlefield that you can really take over the game effectively in a variety of matchups. I hope you enjoy the gameplay, and we'll be back at the end to wrap up. We need to draw some lands, but we've got removal and life gain, we've got sweepers, we've got card draw. We really need to draw some lands. I don't think we kill this now. There's a good chance they're going to draw something more relevant or use the token. All right, well, we'll do it now. At least we have a chance to draw a land. If they don't have a counterspell, which is a big if, we can kill all these things. Wow. Okay. So they have another... Yep, okay. Well, we can deal with that. They could have Ertai now. But they didn't have a 2-mana counterspell before. And they could easily just be activating Fairy Mastermind. So I think we go ahead and burn down the house. We have another one, so we can do it again next turn if they... Although I suppose they have Restless Reef, so if they have Ertai, then we are just dead. But what are you going to do? So they either... Okay, they want to make a token. Just get aggro with it. Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So I think in this case, we burn down the house, make tokens, so that we can chump the Restless Reef. Next turn, we'll have Trumpeting Carnosaur. I mean, we can also get a Gix or a Fairy Mastermind. I don't mind that at all. Okay. Sheoldred's pretty good. So yeah, we just Sheoldred. Okay. So now we can get the Sheoldred back with the Cruelty if we don't draw land. Never mind. But now they can't attack or we kill the bat. That's kind of nice. Oh, never mind. It's gonna... Well, I mean, if the top card of their library is a land, we can kill the bat. Alrighty then. So if we block here and here, we kill the bat and the Tidebinder. That seems good. All right, so we've got Etali in the graveyard. I think it's pretty clear that we just go for that with the Cruelty. That gives us maximum chance of having 2 blockers. Nice. That is the unfortunate thing about playing Duress in a Discover deck. They can force us to trade with their Restless Reefs, but we've got more gas coming. We've got 6 mana already for the Trumpeting Carnosaur. Wow. All right. We can definitely keep this. We've got the beginning and the end covered. Oh man, that is exactly what I did not want to see. So they take Anoint, that means they've definitely got something they want to protect. Oh, yep. That makes sense. I mean, on the plus side, they're not doing too much here. This is a little more. I want to get that Mire now, but that'll allow them to pump their sleeper. Nah, I'll wait. I don't want to kill anything yet. Really? This doesn't allow them any extra pumps. I guess they can pump and activate that Mire. Do we want to get this Deep Cavern Bat? If we do, we can Etali the turn after next. I think that's good. Is that better than killing the sleeper, though? Yeah. We'll take damage faster, but... Okay. Do we want to just cast Sheoldred? We're close to doing both Celestus and Sheoldred. I guess we'll just Celestus. There's a good chance they have like a Go for the Throat or something. And while I don't necessarily want them to target the Etali with that, at least we'll have something left behind with it next turn, as opposed to if we cast Sheoldred, they kill it, we have to wait 2 turns and maybe we're just dead. Whoa. Okay, so... Etali is better than Breach, right? Because we can get a removal spell and potentially 3 total creatures instead of just 2 if we don't. I will definitely take those cards. Yes, please. What do they need? One or fewer cards. Okay. Yep. Okay, so now they do have one or fewer cards. Well, I mean, we've got Sheoldred here. We can just gain 4 life. Well, I guess we gain 2 life. Each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. Land card, create a 1/1. Yeah, that seems fine. Are we really going to hold off breaching? I mean, we can just Etali again. Alright, we'll breach. There we go. I want to take Chandra so that we can kill this thing again. And we'll take their Sheoldred. This should be enough that they won't have enough time to kill us before we kill them. Okay, this looks like a great hand. The Virtue is nice in this context where it can be the win condition in addition to a removal spell when we don't have any other win conditions. Although, if this is blue-white control, okay. I hate to give them a card, but I don't know. I guess we could have held up Cut Down in case they targeted it with something. Well, I feel very lucky that we are hitting our land drops. I think we just hold back here. I don't want to just burn down the house and make tokens when it could be like a really useful sweeper against whatever artifact synergy is going on. Although, if they're playing Quick Study, is this some kind of weird artifact value craft control deck? I don't know. So we're not going to activate Field of Ruin here because they have multiple Restless Anchorage. So we want to wait until they activate one, and we could use Field of Ruin or Cut Down for that matter. And it's not really a big deal, but it does technically reduce our chance of drawing a land, and we obviously want to hit land drops with this hand. I am a little worried our opponent has a handful of counter spells. Yikes. Well, we're getting to the point where we might have to cast Burn Down the House to avoid discarding anything. But I guess we'll wait till we're at that point. How does craft work? So the exiling is part of the activation. Okay. Well, I guess we don't have to worry about that right now. It doesn't really do anything. All right. Well, since we have the Anoint with Affliction and it's so good against the Market Gnome, we're just going to go ahead and do that to avoid having to discard. I'm very unsure what situation we're in. We could be super far ahead if our opponent has nothing relevant, or we could be super far behind if they have a handful of counter spells and, you know, I don't know. I guess if they had card draw, they would have cast it by now. Okay, so do we just start casting things? It doesn't look like they're going to have a bunch of creatures on the battlefield. So maybe we do cast Burn Down the House. And if they counter it, maybe we'll be able to resolve Chandra next turn. Or, you know, as we draw our 7th land, our 7 drops. I think we go ahead and do that. They could have a bunch of rats in their hand. If they have Sunfall or something, we definitely want them to cast it now instead of after we cast Etali. What? Really? Okay. That's a little concerning. I mean, we definitely have to try to kill this thing. I guess we'll start with Molten Collapse. Oh, I can Field of Ruin that. Well, that's pretty cool. Well, I mean, this uses up our whole turn, but... So I'm guessing they don't have any counter spells. So they once again have a ton of cards, but... So I guess that's They have like whenever it attacks, create a map token. Okay. So I'm going to do this so that I can cut down if they activate another one. I guess they're not going to do that. Maybe they were just trying to use up our Field of Ruin? I don't know. Okay, so we have 8 mana. That means if they have drawn a Make Disappear, then they would have to do something weird like activate their Restless Anchorage and sacrifice it to counter Chandra. So I think that seems like a thing we want to do. Or we could... I guess we don't have anything to get, though. We just... yeah, okay. So we'll go ahead and do that. I assume we're just going to +2... Okay, they do have a counterspell. Never mind, we're not going to do anything. If they're doing this now, I wonder why they did not... Maybe they had other counterspells in their hand? Okay. I don't mind them using up a negate here. We have lots of non-creature spells we want to resolve. Alright, well, now we can again cast a 7-drop around to Make Disappear. So we're going to cast Etali, because we need something good to get with Virtue anyway, or Breach potentially. We definitely want to resolve Breach and Virtue because they're so good together. Okay. So I think next turn we want to cast Virtue. And then the following turn we'll Breach. Breach is more important anyway. We have another Virtue also. And we can get the Etali back now with the Virtue next turn. And then Breach to refill the graveyard after that. Well, I guess first let's attack, see if they do something. Alright, that's another counterspell. So I guess this is the whole idea. It's Restless Anchorage and Braided Net. That's the whole point of the deck, right? Pretty sick. I guess we virtue first. Yeah. At least we can go for the throat a Restless Anchorage if they activate one. I mean, that's not too bad. Not attacking. Okay. Well, I mean, there's a really good chance they have a counterspell, but what are you going to do? At least if we draw a dinosaur in the future, we'll be able to resolve it. Oh. Etali, right? That's the most guaranteed value. What is this? They do have untapped creatures. I think we do this just because we draw a card. We don't really want it to transform, this thing to transform. I don't think we can do that. They are likely to run out of cards before we do. Okay. All right. What else you got? Market Gnome, okay. I guess we continue drawing cards as long as we're ahead on cards. Oh, Duress. Okay, that could come in handy. Yeah, sure, I guess so. That thing can attack. Huh. Okay. What is that? Destroy non-land permanent. Okay. You're just gonna make it big. Okay, that's fine. So, do we want to discard our Duress to big score and try to deal with this Restless Anchorage? I kind of don't think we do. It gives them value, but alright, let's Duress, see what we're working with here. So do we need to try to race them? Doesn't seem like that's going to go super well for us. Alright, we've got... I'm going to go ahead and big score, I guess, now, and then decide from there. Okay. Well, that feels pretty good. Now I think we... burn down the house? This looks like a perfectly serviceable hand. Looks like we're up against a ramp. I'd like to be able to duress on turn 1 to get the beanstalk. Oh, okay. Not ramp after all. I guess we just Molten Collapse this thing, and next turn we can Duress plus go for the throat. Okay. Oh God. Well, this is going to be interesting. I think we just have to... Right now, this is the only thing that produces any tokens. Huh. Okay. I guess... if we need to, we can Carnosaur the Dissident and then save the Brotherhood's End. Yeah, I guess we just have to do that right now. It's a shame. Although we can get it back with the Cruelty, assuming we draw lands. Okay. So I think we play Cruelty, we take the Mondrak. And then we'll have Brotherhood's End. That sounds good. What do we want here? We're in a super commanding position. I think we just take a Trumpeting Carnosaur. Yeah, I think we just take Trumpeting Carnosaur. That way we're guaranteed some good value. And I think it's slightly greedy to play the Carnosaur. Not too greedy, of course. You know what? It's fine. I was going to say we need a Brotherhood's End just in case, but it should be fine. We're in... Oh, well, that's awesome. Yep. And we're back to wrap up. This deck really goes over the top of everything. In large part because Etali and Breach the Multiverse give us access to some of our opponent's best cards in addition to our own. When we survive to the late game, it is very difficult for anyone to outvalue us. Only in situations where we're facing a blue-white control deck with an aggressive mill win condition am I really worried about being too far behind. I think that's what makes this deck work. I think the insane amount of value that the Discover mechanic and Etali's ability provide are the key. As far as changes to the deck, this was a hugely challenging deck list to come up with. I want more of everything. I want to play 3 Cruelties, even 4. I'd love to play 2 Sheoldred. I definitely want 2 Celestus. This was the very last change that I made to the deck. I had 2 burn down the house. Felt like I probably needed a 3rd and cut the Celestus for it. I also would love to have at least 2 Duress. I'd also love to have a 28th land. But there are only so many cards that can fit in the deck. And this is, I think, the best configuration for best of 1 that I can come up with. And the sort of release valve of having Big Score or the Celestus to cycle your unwanted cards into cards that can help you really makes the difference. Without that, I don't think you could play this deck in best of 1 because you just have too many dead cards too often. I hope you enjoy crushing your opponents with value, and I'll see you in the next one.